Today, we want to share a powerful message written for employers, by employers. This is a perspective that was forged not just in boardrooms, but also in the depths of a very personal struggle. We're going to talk about what we've learned, first as business leaders and then as recovering alcoholics, about the true, often hidden cost of this illness in the workplace. And more importantly, how a simple shift in understanding can literally change everything.
To really get why this new approach is so critical, we have to start with the price of the old one. Let's begin with the reality we once faced as employers ourselves, a cost that you can't measure in dollars and cents. You have to measure it in lives.
We had an employee once, a guy named Paul. We'd warned him about his drinking, several times, and we gave him one last chance. But then he called, drunk, from a hotel, and we told him he was through, for good. We really thought we were making a tough but necessary business call. And then we got this message.
And then there was another man. He was without a doubt one of the best salesmen we ever had, an absolute rock star. But we saw the unreliability, the behavior, and we discharged him for his drinking. Just 6 weeks later, this is what happened.
And a third. This guy was a brilliant organizer, so sharp, one of the best we'd ever seen. But when his drinking just became unmanageable, we honestly felt like we had no other choice. We had to let him go.
3 men. 3 brilliant, talented men.
And that right there, that's the whole point. These weren't just names on a payroll. They were exceptional talents. And they were lost because we saw their actions as a choice, as some kind of weakness of character. We were treating a symptom, not the actual disease, because we fundamentally misunderstood what we were dealing with. We were just plain wrong.
So what changed? What could possibly shift our perspective so dramatically? Well, it's because the problem stopped being something we managed in them, and it became something we had to face in us.
We crossed that line. We went from sitting behind the manager's desk, making these life-altering decisions about our employees, to living in the desperation of that employee, facing those exact same demons. And let me tell you, that painful, personal experience, it changed everything. It gave us a completely new way of seeing the entire situation.
From this new point of view, we could suddenly see it everywhere. This immense, hidden cost just bleeding through the fabric of businesses all over. The loss of incredible talent, the money wasted on training replacements, the damage to team morale. This wasn't just a few isolated incidents. It was a systemic waste of human potential.
And this brings us to the most critical idea we're going to talk about today. If you really want to help your people and stop this waste in its tracks, you have to first reframe what you're actually dealing with. It requires a really fundamental shift in how you see things.
So look at this slide. On the left is how the business world, and frankly, how we used to see it. Stubbornness, a weak will, a moral failing. But on the right, that's the reality we came to understand. This is a legitimate health crisis. It's not about willpower, it's a grave illness that literally hijacks a person's brain.
This definition is so important. It's not an excuse for bad behavior, it's a diagnosis. It explains why a smart, rational person does completely irrational things. That abnormal action of alcohol in the brain creates what we call crooked thinking. We're dealing with a sickness, not a sin.
So, before you make a move, just ask yourself these questions about the employee. Think about the person you actually hired. Are they, when they're sober, a real asset to your company? If you could have that person back, healthy, focused, firing on all cylinders, would they be worth keeping? More often than not, the answer is a huge yes.
Okay, so what if the answer is yes? What if you decide this person is absolutely worth salvaging? Well, what do? We know that lecturing doesn't work, and we know that ignoring it definitely doesn't work. So here's a new approach, one that we have seen work time and time again.
See, this approach is all about balance. It's not a negotiation. You can think of it as a compassionate ultimatum. You lay out the facts, you offer real help instead of judgment, and you frame it as the grave illness that it is. But then you have to be firm. You demand a decision, and you make it crystal clear that their job depends on their commitment to getting well.
And let's be clear, this approach isn't about saving every single job. If the person is just unwilling to stop, you're not doing them any favors by enabling a sickness that could literally kill them. Sometimes, the shock of being fired is the only thing powerful enough to break through all that denial. It might just be the jolt they need.
But what happens when your employee says yes, and they really truly mean it, when they accept the help you're offering? Well, at that point, your role changes. You go from being their boss to
to being a crucial ally. And the return on that investment for your business, it can be absolutely immense.
Your support during this phase is so critical. It means trusting them again, not hovering over their shoulder with suspicion. It means understanding that part of their own recovery involves helping other alcoholics. And, this is a big one, it means wiping the slate clean. You have to charge off their past mistakes like a bad debt and give them a truly fresh start.
And here's the payoff. A recovered employee doesn't just come back to their old self. They often bring this incredible new level of energy, gratitude, and a fierce, fierce loyalty. They've been saved from what feels like a living death, and they will never ever forget the person and the company that gave them that second chance.
Now, it's really easy to hear all of this and think, that's interesting, but that doesn't really apply to my company. It's so easy to think this problem belongs to somebody else.
We hear this kind of thing all the time from very sincere, very well-meaning executives. They look around their offices, and on the surface, everything seems to be running smoothly. They truly believe their organization is immune to this.
So we would ask that executive, and we would ask you, your company probably tracks production costs down to the hundredth of a penny. But are you completely blind to one of your most serious leaks? A leak of talent, of time, of reputation? How much is this unacknowledged problem truly costing you?
And that really brings us to our final thought here. This whole discussion has been about shifting your perspective, about moving from being frustrated with a problem employee to having compassion for a sick person. So the real question for every leader is this. You've spent plenty of time looking at the problem. Are you willing now to look for the person inside it? Because that person might just be one of the best employees you ever had, just waiting for an informed, compassionate chance to get well.